We can go ahead and get started. So
Yeah, let's go.
it
Uh,
is my honor and privilege to introduce Eleanor Tweddell. So Eleanor is a longtime Sidebar member and has won all of our community awards for being um, just somebody who shows up, is a lifelong learner, is a go-giver, and she went through a wave of change herself about 5, 6 years ago, or something like that, Eleanor. And after you had gotten laid off of your um, job, after being what 16, 17 years in the workforce as a senior leader, and then she decided that she was going to take a bold path and has written a book and is writing another book about it. I think this upcoming book is titled, Another Door Opens. And anyways, I think Larry, who's I see now, said, "Oh, we got to have Eleanor on. Like she's so wise, and she has so much to share with our community." And so I met Eleanor, and she's wonderful. And we're going to miss you at the summit, but we will have you here when you can travel. So uh, thanks for being here, Eleanor. I'll pass it off to you.
Thank you, Ha. That's a lovely introduction. Yeah, and I'm going to get stuck straight in because I've only got an hour today, and this experience, it's not training for sure, and it's a thinking environment experience. Is something I've kind of designed to feel quite special. So I really want to create an environment for thinking today. So I'm going to get straight into that to do it justice. Um, as Ha says, I've kind of been studying this kind of side of change for probably the last 8 years, but done it in corporate life for the previous 20 in terms of transformation and organizational change. And then I got really interested in human change. Like, why are things just not working? Why can we not do this well? So that's where my work comes from. So what I want you to do today is actually go off camera. Just for now, we're only going to regroup at the end of this and see where we come out. But please go off camera, switch off notifications, put away all distractions. If you're going to do other things in amongst this, probably I wouldn't join the workshop. You're not going to get much from it because you need to be in a thinking environment, like completely immerse yourself in yourself. And it's one thing that we just don't do in times of change. Give us real quality time to think. So that's the first thing. I'm going to get up slides because you definitely don't want to just see my face talking. I'm hoping this kind of comes up. Yeah, has that worked? Wow, that's the first bonus when things work. Isn't that a joy? And what I'm going to do is talk through slides today at a kind of pace, actually. We're going to go at pace, but I want you to actually not tune into me, tune into you. And go with me with this. When we're in times of change, it's messy. It feels confusing. There's all sorts of things that we are going to explore in the next 30 minutes. But I want you to open up to what's coming up for you. So go with me. Hopefully you've got a pen, paper, something you can kind of capture your thoughts, or just sit and maybe close your eyes and see what comes up. My whole thing is when one door closes, it's all about opportunity. So that's what we want to go into this feeling. It's not just about navigating change, it's about finding the opportunity. So Ha has done an amazing job of just introducing me. I thought I might just, who is this person talking at me today? Yes, I'm a change consultant. I go into organizations still and I do transformation, but I do coach people as well who are going through change and they want it to be a good thing. When I got laid off from Vodafone, I've been head of comms at all these brands, and I got laid off at Vodafone, which is a telecoms company in the UK. It was a messy layoff, and I actually felt really annoyed by the whole process. And actually revenge or some sort of weird negative energy fueled me into my space of how can I make this a good thing? So I want you to tune into that as we're going through, what's driving that energy as we move away from something in change and towards something. I wrote the book, Why Losing Your Job Could Be the Best Thing That Ever Happened to You, lucky enough to get a deal with Penguin on that one, and started spreading this kind of message, a positive message, but without the sort of I'm not a sort of person who pretends this is easy. This is why I talk about the messiness. My next book coming out, Another Door Opens, is embracing that. It's really all about the mess. Okay, enough about me. We're going to go into you. So, change. We've already had some amazing introductions there about change. And it comes at us from all angles. Big change, little change. We probably actually go through change every single day in some sort of form, even if it's just a diversion on the way to work. Or we have to think about, oh, my favorite socks they're in the wash. I need to change what I was going to wear. Small micro change can sometimes actually be just as impactful on our life than the big, huge macro change that we sometimes think about. So I do want you to place in your mind the wave of change that you're going through right now as we navigate through this, but also be aware of, actually, you've probably already got the skill set to do change really well. So what kind of change are you going through right now? Just start scribbling. We're going to work through these 5 steps, which help us to kind of structure our thoughts. However, the way that I do this is about free thinking. Yes, there's a structure, but I don't want you to overthink. I don't want you to edit your thoughts. I want you to write complete nonsense if that is what comes up for you today in this space. I call it the unruffling of thoughts, because in my research of change, the one thing we don't do is allow ourselves to just go to places with our thinking, our ideas. We keep ourselves quite comfortable in times of change. Of course we do. It's how we protect ourselves. But this gentle unruffling of thoughts can be where the opportunity lies. So that is what we're doing, unruffling thoughts. It's almost notes to self. So you write down everything and anything that comes up, even if it has nothing to do with what I've just said. It's all brilliant insights as to where you are right now. The other thing is notice resistance. Sometimes I might say something and you think, oh God, I don't like that. Oh no, not me. These are all brilliant insights as well. In fact, the 5 steps to navigate change could have easily been the 5 resistant zones to change. Because actually at each one of these points, we have resistance. So notice where this shows up for you. Right. Hopefully I've got you into that space. I want you to really feel like your shoulders are dropping. You really feel like you've got a really nice space to think. And we're going to just go with where our thoughts flow. Navigating change really well starts with stopping. That is why we start with a pause. And it's really important because actually in times of change, we are wired to find a solution. Everything inside of us kickstarts and thinks, oh my goodness, I've got to get myself out of this. And we get busy and we do all sorts of things as a reaction. But actually we need a pause. We need to press pause. We need to be still. We need to acknowledge the void. We have to create time to think. We have to look after ourselves. We have to let go. And as you sit and think about these things, as I've said, scribble what comes up for you. When you really think of, am I making time to think in this moment? Am I looking after myself? There's no way that you can navigate change well if you aren't looking after yourself. And this piece about letting go. The pause allows us to let go well. Good pausing is not just for hippies. When we pause, a different kind of intelligence comes online. Now, I get a lot of resistance to this when I talk to people about stopping and resting and pausing. We don't have time for this. I have it a lot in organizations when I come in, talk about transformation. Yeah, all very well, but we're a very fast-paced culture around here. That to me means you're not creating good quality time for critical thinking. This isn't just me making it up. There's tons of research out there of the importance. One of the things I really love, the piece of research that I read about and resonated with a lot, was this default mode network. When we pause, it activates and it helps us with self-reflection, with making sense of things, with how we process, with memory consolidation. So we're remembering the right things, and it activates creativity. All the things we need to do change well. So let's not push through the pause. Let's know that this is part of a really productive navigation. Pausing is where we integrate. We start to make sense of what's happening to us and where we want to go with it. Marcus Rachel, the National Institutes of Health, the people who talk about the default mode network, resting states are not idle states. They're where we are helping ourselves understand the past, imagining the future, and reflecting on who we are now. And just think about that. How much time have you given yourself to really think about the past and what's being let go of? The future, you don't have to have all the answers, but who you are now in this moment. And imagine the power of teams and organizations creating that space just to stop and think and do that well. So what does good pausing look like? I actually think the more I study this, the more it is a massive skill set, underrated skill set. You never see that as a competence, do you? On organization competencies. How well do you pause never comes up in an interview. And yet I honestly believe this is where really, really high-performing people understand the power of rest. Otherwise, they understand what it feels like to burn out as well. In our busy lives, we don't make space for it. So what do you think about when we think about pausing? What's been coming up for you as I have been talking through this? Do you think, actually, I've done this pretty well? I'm a really good pauser. I've done some good resting. Or are you beginning to think maybe I kind of need to introduce this? Because at any moment in time, you need to press the pause button through change. It isn't just at the beginning. It's all the way through. When things get tricky, when things get hard, when things take off, we have to understand, what is pausing looking like? I have this little matrix. I use matrix a lot to help me do some thinking. You know, this thing about, if you're a doer or a nothing person, if you like things fluid or you're very intentional and structured, there are different kinds of pausing. Now, we might think that pausing, we just automatically think it's kind of hippies sitting in a field and they're all meditating. Oh, not for me at all. However, I want to introduce the thought that you probably are doing pausing your way. Mindless pausing is that good old thing where we jump on maybe Twitter, or X, should I say. We jump on some social platform and we just scroll. Mindless pausing, it has its place. I found research on it that actually a little bit of just mindless pausing distracts us from perhaps what we're worrying about just for that moment. So as long as we don't get lost in it, it's actually okay. Mindful pausing is more where you're kind of doing something a bit more structured. Perhaps you go for a walk. You don't know where, you just start. Silent pause is the one that is the extreme one, where we take ourselves into a room and just sit there in silence. How does that feel to think about it? And then structured pause is actually what we're doing today. We're pausing and thinking, but in a structured environment. So good pausing is about understanding, what do you need? What do you want? What's the purpose of the pause? Maybe you just need a rest. It's really important to acknowledge that. Time away, get yourself away from the laptop, lock it away. Maybe you need a distraction. Or is it time to think? Quality time. So in the pause, we're acknowledging what we're moving away from and what we want to move towards, gently. There's not an urgency to that. There's a gentle movement. A door is closing. That's what changes in whatever form that might be, whether micro or macro, and a new door is opening. And we're in this middle part where we have to decide, make decisions. And we either do these on default or we do them more consciously. So think about that pause. What does it mean to you? How good are you at pausing? What do you find in the pause? Maybe you made some discoveries already. Maybe you're going to have to let go of something. And in the pause, it's helping you to navigate what that is, how to do it. And then that big question, what do you need right now? In moments of change, that to me is the biggest question you can help yourself with. When you're feeling it, when it's all coming at you, just sit with that question. What do I need right now? Scribble down some things that are coming up for you. Anything, as I said, might not even be answering these questions. But what I want you to take from this step is you have to know how to pause. You need to know when to pause, what it looks like for you, how to do it well. We keep practicing this the whole way through because actually pausing is reflection. It is thinking time. And you need that the whole way through change. So now we get messy. When we've done our pausing, now we can open up. We can embrace the messy emotions. We can have absolutely no answers and be okay with that. Even us that need to know everything, we can get to know ourselves in this space. Perhaps look at ourselves in a way that we've never thought of ourselves before. We have to get uncomfortable. And this is our moment to start searching for purpose. Maybe it's not like a huge mission. You don't have to change the world, but you just have to know, why am I doing this? What matters to me? Messiness is not just for artists. In a moment of change, we have to open up. And unless we acknowledge that change is messy, we will never be able to find opportunity. Because we're always thinking we're doing it wrong. If it feels uncomfortable, we think, right, there must be something here that can get me out of this discomfort. But actually, the messiness of change means that we can be many things all at once. We don't have to rush through things, even though we're probably conditioned to try and get ourselves out of this moment. Embracing this messy middle bit is where true transformation happens. And it's where possibilities and opportunities sit. This unruffling part also surfaces all kinds of things. It's not a coincidence that people change things like their habits and fully go into their identity and how they talk about themselves. Because we're getting clues to what perhaps we really want to do, where we truly want to add value. So to embrace messiness is growth. And again, we don't see that much in the work world. In fact, messiness, I'm often told to take that out, and people want to change the title when I do this workshop. They don't like it. They don't think it's professional. And yet, denying that there is a smooth route through change, denying that there isn't a smooth route through change, is where conflict, is where uncomfortableness, is where actually we don't progress. So the in-between is where we meet ourselves and decide, okay, how am I going to show up? Who am I going to be in this moment? It's good old Glennon Doyle says, be messy, be complicated, unafraid, and show up anyway. Powerful. So how do you embrace the mess of change? Let's start simple. You've probably all seen the change curve, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. We might have even used it in work. You know, we start with a shock and we go into denial, but then it's all fine. However, in my research, it's a lot more grey and hazy. We feel many different things at once. It's grey, and sometimes it feels exciting. Sometimes it's clear and it's beautiful and it's sunny, and you find an idea, and then the next day you're worried or you're angry. Look at this loop. This is more what it looks like, you know? And this could be like a minute. This could be like a day. This could be like a week or a month. We feel many different things all at the same time in times of change. And it's important to acknowledge that. So what does your curve look like? We all have our way of navigating change. Have a go at scribbling, perhaps what it's looking like for you now. Maybe there's a bit of indifference, a bit of curiosity, maybe hope. Just start drawing your line and see what comes up. Maybe there's a little bit of worthless worry, resistance. But then you question things and you think of opportunity. Your line might look something like this. It's your line. The point is we've all got our navigation. We're all going through this in our own way. And the interesting thing about this is what we can learn about going through change in groups. Because actually, might be in the same sea, but we're definitely all in different boats. All navigating this in different ways. And it's often where challenge comes in. Because we think, well, I'm all right with this change. I don't know what they're complaining about. Have a look at these four. They're all in the same team. Dev, Laurie, Jack, and John. Laurie is kind of indifferent to this change that's going through. Felt a little bit worried at one point, but kind of picking up. John was devastated at the beginning, but look at this peak. Hugely excited, pennies drop, found opportunity. Dev was excited at first, but suddenly realized what it meant. Jack's just kind of coasting. Why is this important? It's because they're all in the same team, but they're all experiencing very different things. Look at the difference here. John's fed up, Dev's excited. Here, these three that were initially okay with it are suddenly sunk, and they're probably grouping together, moaning about a new thing that's come in, or they've realized something, whereas John's super excited now. Here, even this group is starting to part. Bit of optimism going on. Somebody feels then, oh, Mr. Positive, I'm going to keep away from them. These kind of differences are important when we're navigating change. It's the empathy gap, because we're kind of looking after ourselves, but we cannot do change alone. So think about who's around you and perhaps how they're navigating. Make sure you understand the empathy gap that's going on. And when we group, I call it group backup, these moments where we regroup because we all think the same. In work, it could be, you know, we gather around the walk, like, yeah, that was a terrible decision. And yet there's a few people that might be like, well, I kind of thought it was good. And they're out of the group. So this is why it's important to understand the messy. We're all navigating in different ways. I call it change mastery, because we have our own personal unique way of looking at change. And actually, it's not just one way, it can be circumstance. You think, wow, I've been made redundant before. I don't know why this time it's really hard. It's because circumstance and situation changes us. Change mastery is always changing. And that's why it's always an opportunity to get to know yourself, to ask those questions of, why am I here? Who actually am I? What are my beliefs and values? What am I standing for? What can I do with ease? What do I find really easy? What is actually holding me back? Some of the realities. Now, these questions you can actually put into your pause sometimes, if that's what you need. If you need thinking time, sitting with some of these questions about who you are, how well can you answer these questions about who you are? How well are your values showing up for you? They can sometimes help. But my warning here is don't get lost in them, because we want to navigate change lightly. And sometimes sitting thinking, oh my God, I've got to have purpose. I don't know why I'm here. Actually, that can cause more stress. So it's playing around with these ideas, with these questions. It's not having to have all the answers before you can move on. And I guess that's the uncomfortable part. You know, really understanding where you are comfortable, what you're comfortable with, where you can perhaps step out of that comfort zone and stretch yourself a little bit. So you ask yourself, well, who am I in these moments? Okay, I could be doing something a little bit different, but it's making me feel uncomfortable, but it's stretch. But always being aware of, this is now unsustainable. I'm putting so much pressure on myself. This is miserable. This is not good. It's stress. So in these moments of change, making sure that you are keeping yourself healthily and comfortable is really important. Keep checking in. Who am I? Who am I showing up? Am I keeping myself well? So getting messy is about how it feels. It's about getting to know yourself better in this moment of change. And it's about embracing this moment. There's good parts of getting messy. Perhaps there's things that have come up for you when you're listening to this. And it's about being uncomfortable. It's about it's about embracing the uncomfortable movements that you need to make. So just see what comes up in that messiness. How well have you done the thinking to know yourself in this moment? When we open up to the messiness, we can start to play. We can start to think about going exploring, getting curious. We can start to think differently about perhaps who we are and the options that we've got. And in this moment, we can have wild, bold, audacious ideas. We're playing, so there's no rules here. We can understand problems and we can find solutions. Play is not just for children. And again, I get this lot, the resistance of play. We don't have time for play. We have to have answers. We have to have exact, clear instructions of what happens next. But play is actually part of navigating uncertainty. It helps us regulate emotions and it gives us new ways forward. In times of play, if we allow it into us, it helps us relax. We don't have the pressure of finding the perfect answer. It reduces our fear of getting it wrong. You can't get things wrong when you're playing. So how are you introducing play? It's a great quote here from Gary Ware. He's the author of Breakthrough Play. Play is rehearsal for life. It allows us to experiment. Gary tells the story of when he was in an agency, super stressed, massive workload, and he was invited along to a comedy night. Part of the company had organized it. It was sort of like this spontaneous comedy night where you could stand up and have a go at jokes. And he was like, I haven't got time for this. But something got him curious and he said, what am I making time for? And he went along. And he said it was the most transformational moment because he played around with that. He had fun. It re-energized him. And when he came back to his desk, he felt fresh energy. So he wrote a whole book about breakthrough play and how it's really important not to push it away. So you know what question I'm going to ask. How do you play? We have to reclaim it. Play is not just what kids do. There's a whole institute of play, and they have 8 types that we can actually explore. It's not just one thing. We probably do some of this stuff again without even thinking about it. We can be the planner, we can be the joker, we can be the storyteller. Dr. Stuart Brown, who is from the National Institute of Play, talks about how play energizes us and it brings new possibilities because we're taking ourselves away from the direct problem and worries of what we're trying to navigate, and we're opening ourselves up to whole new possibilities. In the spirit of play, I've come up with questions for us to play with in these sections. Let's have a go. Write down anything that springs to mind when you sit with these questions. Make it as random as you like. What do you collect? What's the thing you'll always win? What do you need to make? Try and write an answer down for all of these, no matter how random it is. What are you most looking forward to? What's the silliest, most ridiculous idea you've got? What bold move can you make? What's the story you have to share? And what are you curious about? Now, you might have been drawn to one of those questions more than the other. Scribble some stuff down and see what it unruffles. In moments of change, we never know where our spark will come from, where the idea comes from, where the energy comes from to keep moving, to keep progressing, to keep growing. It's all about thinking differently, being open to ideas, knowing that there's lots of options for us, that we have choices, that we can discover opportunity if we open ourselves up to it, that we can think of the problems, but also find solutions. So it's an empowering act to think of play. So how can you play more? What's grabbing your attention? What's really a problem? What do you need to explore? Is there an experiment you can try? Scribble some things down that's coming to mind when you're thinking about play and your moment in your wave of change. Step 4 is try, because we've played now it's time to get serious. Try is an important one. We have to find joy in trying. We don't just wait for joy when we get there, wherever there is. We find joy in the progress. We find joy in making imperfect actions. Try is when, okay, the time's right. I'm going to have a go at this. I'm going to handle the tricky stuff. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to not do something because it's hard. I'm going to take one step at a time and try. And trying is what you do. It's not just for somebody else. We own trying. So the message today is find joy in trying. You're already making moves, then you are already a success. Trying is where we shift and we stop thinking about ideas and possibilities, and we're actually making moves into this space. We're giving ourselves a chance. We're backing ourselves. We're not holding ourselves back. We're really trying to find solutions to the things that are coming up. And the most important thing is we celebrate this. Quite often we wait till the end, whatever the end looks like, to celebrate. So try is the moment that we celebrate and we find joy. So it's a moment that you commit and you say, right, how am I going to do this? It's not about what am I going to do now? It's about how am I going to make this happen? Great quote from Dolly. You'll never do a whole lot unless you're brave enough to try. Step into that space. So how are you going to try? There's something about capability and capacity that we have to acknowledge. Really important in these moments. You have to have the capability or be up for learning. Of course you do. Go and get the skills, go and get the experience that you need to make this happen. But you also have to acknowledge, is the time right? Capacity. And capacity isn't a time thing. Capacity is a space and energy for it. If you've got energy for something, you're going to make it happen. So I think in the moment of trying, always be really careful on this capability and capacity part. You know I love a matrix. Thinking about have you got the skills versus have you got capacity, you can then get, okay, what do I need to do? If you don't have the skills, but you've got a massive amount of energy, go and learn. If you've got the capacity and you've got the skills, let's get on with it. What's holding us back? If you don't have capacity, you might have the skills to do it, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. And the last one, you don't have skills, you don't have capacity. Why are we even thinking about this? So all those ideas that we have unruffled in our moment of play, we can now start to think about, is this right? In our moment of trying, it's okay, where am I at? What's the reality on this? So in our trying, we are going to come up with setbacks, rejections, fails, feel fed up because we're trying. And it helps us to know what to do next. If we don't have setbacks, we're not experiencing rejection or failing, we're probably not trying. So in the end, trying's a love letter to our future self. I gave it everything, I tried, I'm so proud. That's where we want to be. So what are you going to try? What have you got the capacity for? Are you ready for the setbacks? Are you going to take them as part of progression? What's a small step you can do today to help you try? The message is all we can do is try. Give ourselves the best chance possible. That brings us to the end, which is the start. We started at the beginning by stopping, and now we come to the end by starting. We're going to start with intention and ownership, the things we're going to say yes to, the things we're going to say no to. Restarts are not just false starts. Not at all. Restarts are intentional. We own them, not just because we have to, because we want to. And actually, it's a moment to take advantage of this start with fresh eyes. Beginner's mindset is huge because you're free to unlearn. You're free to go into this space of imperfection and ask questions. So actually embrace the restart with this beginner's mindset. Quite often we feel like it's a burden. We feel embarrassed, like, oh, everybody's so far ahead of me. And yet how many times does somebody just come in from nowhere, they start something, they've got this energy and they're asking all the great questions. Sharon Roos talks about this in the book, Zen Mind. In the beginner's mind, there are possibilities because you're coming from a blank page. Sometimes experts shut down things because they're like, yeah, it doesn't work. Now, in my experience, it all gets in the way. So actually in the restart, embrace the beginner's mindset. How are you going to restart? Shona Rhimes talks about saying yes. Her year of yes. What are you going to say yes to? And what are you going to say no to? As Natalie Liu says, make it a desire or it's a no. You have to do success your way. So what does it mean to you? What does it feel like? It's got to be yours, Not somebody else's, not society's, yours. So as we end this section, these might look familiar. Fearless, Red, Folklore, Evermore. What on earth are we talking about Taylor Swift's albums for? Well, Taylor talked about her eras. That was her whole tour. And this is how you're going to take your first step into owning change. You're going to own your era. What is your next chapter going to be about? What are you doing? Who do you want to be? What does success look like? What's the values that are guiding you? Have a go now at naming your era. Maybe it's the big reinvention, the quiet one, fresh air. That was what somebody came up with in one of these workshops. Family moments. If you come up with something or you've got an idea, share it in the chat. It's a really good piece of fun, but actually it can help people connect with, this is what my next chapter is going to be about. This is how I'm going to own it. So, as we come to the end of our exploration, you have now full permission to pause, to embrace the mess, to play, to find ideas and possibilities, and then try. You owe it to yourself to try and start with intention. I'm going to stop the share. And as we regroup, I just want you to take a minute to think of what's come up. As I said, this was about an unruffling experience of what you're going through right now, what's coming up for you. Some parts might connect with you more than others. What's one or two insights that you can take away that maybe you can start working on, or remind yourself, this is where I'm at, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going to come back on camera. There we go. Love this era of creating some new communities, nurturing some I'm already part of. Love that, Larry. Taylor, exactly. I had to get Taylor in. It was just part of my mission. The 6, I mean, yeah, use Larry's 6 words as well. That would be really, I might actually include that in my next workshop. My era is about regeneration of hibiscus. Ooh, Nitsi, that sounds incredible. Portfolio career that embraces joy and connection. Love these eras. Love these. I actually really love this exercise because it's fun naming our era, but it can actually help guide us so much, especially in the moments of kind of when it's feeling like, oh, go to your era and go, hang on, what am I doing? So yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Please feel free to put your hand up if anything's come up for you. We can do a Q&A or just a sharing. It's probably more a sharing zone. But yeah, I would love to know what happened there in that space for you.
Larry.
Larry.
All right, so we all know no one likes to go first, and then we're going to run out of time for questions because that's the way it goes in sessions like this with Eleanor leading such a great thing. Thank you. The pause thing is so interesting, and I've been thinking a lot about space. And when I am most effective, I think, in thinking, I don't really run anymore because of knees, but like showers, you can't do anything. Really, you shouldn't have a phone in there. Paddle boarding, really, you can't have a phone. So I've grabbed little spaces, the shower being 2 minutes, the paddleboard being an hour, but I got space of many days recently for a retreat of sorts. Absolutely, very lucky to have that. Absolutely incredible, but just space, right? True space. And you've talked about pauses, and the space can be micro spaces. What if you created one micro space a day, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
We all don't do it. So I love the pause idea, and I will offer space.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, just over a cup of coffee in the morning, if coffee's your thing. Just like instead of it being a rush or it's just that, oh, I'm gonna just savor this. That's my little space. Thanks, Larry. Anyone else want to share?
I'll jump in here. It's funny, I think I've had so much change in my life lately over the past 3+ years that I'm actually really looking forward to less change. So, during a lot of the time, I mean, change, some professional change I'm looking forward to and things like that. But like in the rest of my life, I'm looking for stabilization across the board and more calm.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Yeah.
I love that, Eleanor. I think a stabilization era is completely acceptable. I'm kind of with you on that. Yeah. I think I'm in my simplicity era. I want things just simple.
Eleanor,
Oh, Lamb, I love that. Era of being a true leader. Oh, sorry, Nitin. Sorry.
sorry, I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand, and
Yeah, yeah.
uh, no, really enjoyed this session. I think the content you had and the way how you were describing it um, was really inspiring. And I was going through so much emotion because I recently left my job where I was feeling it's I think you were talking about these concentric circles of unsustainable, that sometimes you are in that phase, you're not able to. And I'm really delighted, and really feel fortunate I got to experience you live. Congratulations on your books, and really looking forward just have that. I'm really thankful for you sharing your wisdom, your thoughts. I don't have any questions, but just wanted to convey my gratitude and thanks to you. Thanks to my best friend Ha here. She gets such amazing, inspiring leaders. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Oh, that's really kind words. Yeah, it's kind of unnerving doing this stuff, even though you do it for a living. It doesn't make it, you never underestimate like the space that I want to create. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Michelle, thank you for
Yes, of
raising your.
course. Thank you. And so I just kind of wanted to express gratitude as well as like the permission to acknowledge how hard this stuff is. Like the early script with pausing, I was feeling so resistant when it's like, just pause. I was like, absolutely not. I shall never. And I know that that's a thing that I have had to work really hard on, and I'm not great at it. So I appreciate you giving the space to be like, this isn't easy, and it's okay that it's uncomfortable, and the solutioning and the let's just move past this clunky piece. It was again, I feel like you gave permission to be like, this is hard. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the one thing in all of my research. Like I spoke to like hundreds and thousands of people for my book research, and it's the one thing that comes up that we feel like we're getting it wrong when it's hard. And we're humans, like we're messy and there's so many complications and it's horrible. Like people who try and simplify, lovely and inspiring, but we have to acknowledge the messiness. Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Larry, have you got your hand up again, or is that from last time? I'm not sure.
Old
Not
hand.
everyone.
I should know how to use Zoom by now.
Yeah. I'm the same. I mean, this is one change that none of us can ever avoid, is it? Tech change, constantly at us, and it's the same thing. We go, okay, stop. What's going on here? How do I learn how to do this Zoom thing? And then restart with it. Yeah. Anything else? I'm loving all of the eras. Thank you for sharing them. Just have a little look now. Portfolio create. Yeah, I love that. Brilliant. Anything else that we want to share before we go? Don't want to.
If no one's sharing, I'm gonna put up the QR code. I'm sorry. Okay, so don't go anywhere. Eleanor is gonna take some questions, but while she takes some questions, it would be awesome for everybody to grab your phone, and this feedback goes directly to Eleanor. We get it too, but Eleanor would so greatly appreciate the feedback, and feedback is a gift. But thank you, Eleanor. I was sort of reflecting on my own journey. So I think I share the story publicly. So anybody who's following me on LinkedIn probably knows, but 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I left a pretty crappy work environment, really horrible. And I was just like, I think I need to give myself a pause before jumping into the next thing to separate myself from my identity of work and this company, which I felt like I built from the ground up. And so I took a 5-month sabbatical, and it was really the best thing that I ever did. Just, you know, and my sabbatical themes were joy, discovery, and connection. Joy, you know, every day I tried to find something that like would just bring me joy, like just something that super fun. Experiences, or discovery was about just doing something new every day. And then connection was like trying to reconnect with people, because when you're heads down as an operator, you do not have time to like lift up and build your network and, you know, and connect with people. And anyways, those were my sabbatical themes, and I just really loved it. And it was so energizing. So this brings me back to my sabbatical, of which I want to take now a sabbatical every 5 years, honestly. if not less frequent, or more frequent, less time in between.
Yeah. Mini sabbaticals. I think that's the thing again in the research. Like, we have such resistance to pause, like Michelle said, just fascinated me. And I'm the same. Like, I know I have to rest. I know I have to, and yet everything inside of me wants to push through. And so you have to make it really intentional and own it. But as I say, what I discovered was, oh, there's different kinds of pausing. I don't have to go and sit in a field and look at the sky and, you know, switch, you know, there's different kinds. And I think that for me was a real breakthrough. So you're right, you know, how you can do your sabbatical, or you can do like 5-minute sabbatical. What does that look like, you know? So yeah, it's interesting, but we all have to rest for sure. Anything else before I think we're coming to an end? And I do apologize, like halfway through, I'm in a hotel room because it's holidays here, and somebody from the hotel walked into the room. So I do apologize if you noticed that halfway through. I don't even know what they were doing, because, you know, it's not morning time.
Maybe
to
they
make
left
bed.
a
So that was,
chocolate.
yeah, it was so random. I didn't look. I was just like, no, what are you doing walking in my room? That was so weird. Anyway, you know, we power through. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining these sessions. You know, I feel really privileged that you've joined my space and gone with me on this stuff that I'm working on. Say I've been working on it for 5 years now, specifically for this book, but kind of 8 years in different guises. And yeah, it's been amazing to share it with you. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for Sidebar buddies, Sidebar community. I really appreciate it. So thank you. And I'm on Sidebar if you want to drop me any messages or keep talking about change. That's my thing. So yeah.
And I think that's what's so extraordinary about this community, which is, I mean, Eleanor, I mean, you're incredible. And yet, like, you are so, like, you reflect the values, right? You show up and you're a go-giver, and, you know, you're here because you have something to teach everyone, and something, and you feel like you're a lifelong learner. And so anyways, thank you so much. You were brilliant. You're an amazing presenter. I had no idea. So great job. And if anybody wants to share their wisdom with the community, just be in touch. And we would love to have you on and sharing your wisdom with our community. So thank
Hey,
you,
did
Ellen.
you hype your podcast, Eleanor, in the beginning?
Oh, yeah. Hyper podcast.
Oh,
Killer
no.
podcast.
Yeah. Specifically Larry's chat, which,
Well,
yeah,
you
gone down
know,
very
I mean,
well.
I got by, but no, but it's a great podcast. I wasn't hyping myself, but it's called Another Door, and it's very
Another
fun.
door, yeah. Another door opens. Another door opens. So, okay, we'll check it out. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.